Hello, dear subscribers and guests of our channel. We continue to tell you about predictions, prophecies, and forecasts about our future from various seers of the past and present. In today's video, we'll talk about the forecast for the year 2025 from astrologer Jeane Dixon. So, 2025 continues the series of trials that have fallen to the share of our generation. This difficult period began back in 2020 when the age of Aquarius came into full force. The world began to change at such a speed that many feel everything around is collapsing and the end of the world is near. However, that's not the case. The problem is that we simply can't keep up with the rapid flow of change. We need to learn how to adapt to the fast pace of life. Astrological and numerological forecasts can help us with this. Even a brief glimpse into the future can provide a sense of confidence, allowing us to envision the possible course of events in advance. The global situation in 2025. The year 2025 stands out for its strong duality, where everything is clearly divided into good and bad, complicated and simple. The first half of the year will bring a series of crises, instability, and a struggle for survival in nearly every sphere of life. The old world, which has long outlived itself, is still desperately clinging to power. This period can be called the agony of an outdated system, the darkest hour before the dawn. But in the second half of the year, everything will radically change. Life will become simpler and easier. Some stability will emerge, and many problems will be solved. The economy will begin to recover. But most importantly, there will be a major shift in global politics. The first quarter of 2025 will be the most difficult period for the entire world. Social, economic, and political crises will affect countries like the United Kingdom, the United States, and EU member states. A wave of protests, riots, demonstrations, and clashes will sweep across the world, including conflicts based on religion. From April to June, there will be a clear realization that change is not just necessary, it's inevitable. As a result, the situation will begin to stabilize and move toward improvement. In the second half of the year, political and economic issues will start to be resolved constructively, and the world will gradually begin to emerge from the crisis. About China. In 2025, China will retain its status as the world's leading economic power, continuing to exert significant influence on global processes. However, economic confrontation between China, the US, and Europe will intensify, leading to more trade and financial conflicts. About the United States. America is facing a deep internal crisis. In 2025, Pluto, planet of transformation and renewal, will have a strong influence on the U.S. natal chart. But any renewal requires the destruction of the old order, and the existing system is not going to give up without a fight. This will lead to increased tension in society. The country will become fully divided into two opposing camps and begin to rapidly move toward a new civil war. The highest likelihood of it starting falls in 2027, when Uranus will occupy the same position it held during the Civil War of 1861. Internal contradictions and problems will cause the U.S. to begin losing its global influence as early as 2025. America's power will begin to weaken, something that other countries, aiming for global leadership, will certainly take advantage of. About the European Union. In 2025, the richest and most influential countries in the EU, such as Germany and France, will face the most serious political and economic crisis. Germany's economic downturn began back in 2022 and, according to forecasts, will last until at least 2027 to 2029. In addition, native Germans will continue to suffer from religiously driven conflicts initiated by migrants. In France, a change of leadership can be expected. Macron will not hold on to his position, and his party is rapidly losing support. Most likely, Marine Le Pen will replace Macron, but she won't be able to stabilize the internal situation in the next 2 to 3 years. Especially since external forces will actively interfere, preventing her from achieving economic prosperity. A few more words about America. The first half of 2025 could be quite tense for the U.S. due to involvement in prolonged international conflicts and unstable geopolitical conditions. The world will continue to polarize, and some international players will try to pressure America, making tough demands and provoking it into retaliation. However, it's unlikely that there will be a direct military confrontation between global powers. There is reason to believe that a number of countries that previously held aggressive positions will be forced to shift their focus to internal crises, economic difficulties, political protests, and natural disaster fallout. By spring 2025, according to some analysts, it will become clear that U.S. global influence cannot be undermined by military means. This will lead to a gradual shift toward negotiations, with terms that will be more favorable for Washington. However, it would be premature to speak of a full end to the crisis. The peace process will be drawn out, it will be complex, multi-layered, and will last at least until 2026. At the same time, local combat actions or other forms of confrontation may continue. The U.S. military and diplomacy will remain active, striving to strengthen their position in strategically important regions of the world. Ukraine will begin to rapidly break apart. Poland will openly declare its claims to Lviv and the surrounding territories. It may even deploy troops. Hungary will demand the return of Transcarpathia. It is possible that a referendum will be prepared in Transcarpathia on peacefully joining Hungary. The South, part of the North, and the East will remain under American control. At the beginning of 2025, there is a possibility of increased terrorist attacks targeting civilians. In this regard, it is recommended to avoid places with large crowds of people during this period whenever possible. Amid the growing terrorist threat, the authorities will likely take steps to tighten migration policy. The second half of 2025, according to forecasts, will be characterized by greater stability and calm compared to the first half. Despite ongoing sanctions, economic growth is expected to continue, creating an overall positive outlook for the United States. About the Middle East. The Middle East remains one of the most tense regions in the world. In the first half of the year, tensions will escalate, and there is a high probability of the conflict reaching a critical point. However, by the second half of the year, it may be possible to reach a ceasefire agreement. That said, this ceasefire is likely to be short-lived, since the conflict is protracted and could easily resume over the smallest provocation. About natural disasters. In 2025, the trend of abnormal weather events will continue. The elements of fire and water will be especially active. Regions that have already experienced floods will be at risk of new, even more large-scale flooding. The United Arab Emirates will face regular flooding, and many major fires are expected in the United States. The most dangerous fire season is forecasted for the spring and summer, so preparations should begin in advance. Saturn and Neptune will be in the fire sign of Aries during the summer, which will make the fires more intense than in previous years. In seismically active regions, the situation will remain difficult, as tectonic plates will show signs of instability. Therefore, an increase in the frequency and intensity of earthquakes should be expected. About people's lives. As for people's daily lives, the difficult planetary positions in the first half of 2025 will affect everyone. For some, it may mean divorce, for others, problems at work. In short, everyone will be affected in their own way. The second half of 2025 could be quite different. The planets will calm down, and life will gradually return to normal. This will also be a good time for marriage, having children, or purchasing property. In the second half of 2025, all businesses related to agriculture and food production will actively develop. In the first half of the year, Jeane Dixon would not recommend going on long journeys, starting legal proceedings, or making important decisions related to moving. Well, that's all from me for today. Write your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and support this video with a like.